Hi YouTube and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I was reading through some comments and I seen everyone had a lot of question about overlays, how to move them, how to create them, what to do. I'm here to help. So I will do my best to keep this video as short as I can, but when I'm explaining things, I try to explain it to the best of my abilities, and sometimes it can be very wordy. I apologize if you want to skip through some of the parts. You can definitely do that, but I want to make sure it's as descriptive as it is, so that way I can answer as much questions as you have in your head. So like I said, in this video we will be learning how to create overlays, how to move overlays, and certain functions you can use. Excuse me, and things like that. So the first thing that I already did was I already made my scene. So creating overlays. How do you do that? Let's talk about it. So the first thing you're obviously going to need is an overlay. Obviously, right? So episode obviously already has some overlays that you can use, but also you can upload your own overlays by upload to your account. There are some criteria. It needs to be PNG and it needs to be under 1 MB. So those are the criteria for you to upload an overlay. It's pretty easy. There's a lot of free overlays you can use. I would also recommend using the episode forum, so that way there's a lot of free overlays there. People do it for free, and some people you can purchase some overlays from, just to give you some ideas of where to find some. But a lot of them you can get from free PNG websites. It's pretty easy, so you can do that. But the overlay I'm going to use today is ball. It's a soccer ball. All right, so I already set my scene. And so how to create the overlay. The main thing is use that @ symbol there. You need to use it. That's how it let episode know what you're doing, right? You're using the overlay. So after you put @overlay, again, important, make sure you @ the overlay. Don't @ the actual name of the overlay. I know that was kind of confusing. Put @overlay. Some people thought when I put @overlay, I meant the overlay name. I meant the actual word overlay. Okay? And then you put the name of your overlay. So @overlay, the name of your overlay. The name of my overlay is ball. So I'll put @overlay, the name of my overlay, and create. This is letting episode know the overlay we are creating, right? So that is what we're doing. So yeah, we created it. Now what? So I know you guys probably heard this thing called opacity. So an episode, it lets basically us readers know, let the readers know how visible you want it to be. And it's usually from a scale of 0 to 1. 0 being completely invisible, and that's what it defaults to. So if you don't put in opacity, episode is going to put it to invisible. And so you're going to preview, you're like, where's my overlay? I can't find my overlay. It's not visible. Well, yeah, because episode made it invisible. So make sure when you're using the overlay, you make sure you put the opacity. That's important. So how you put the opacity is @overlay. And again, I'll put the name of my overlay, because I know that was confusing in like previous videos. People thought I was putting overlay to substitute for the name of the overlay. No, you don't put @ the overlay name. You put @ the word overlay. And again, the name of your overlay. And then I'm going to put, you don't want that capitalized, opacity 1. This lets episode know we want our overlay visible. We want the readers to see it. So making sure you remember the name of your overlay, make sure you use that @ symbol, the name of your overlay, and create. That's how we get the overlay in our story. And then to make it seen, opacity 1. Again, opacity starts from 0 to 1, right? I have a previous video on how to fade it in and things like that, but this is just to get it in our story. You need to put it at 1. If you don't put in opacity, episode would make it invisible. So you're going to be looking for your overlay if you don't put it at 1. So then I'll show you what it looks like in our story. All right, so now it's in our story. So I just want you to be mindful of some things. Sometimes, depending on the zone you're in, depending on the size of your overlay, sometimes your overlay will be all around the gosh darn background. So don't, if you can't see it right away, sometime like this overlay I just had to size it down because it was like this big. And so I had to scale it to make it smaller because that's just how it was. So if you can't find it, try moving around and see if you can find it. That's just the way I guess episode operates, right? So I have my ball here, right? So I have my soccer ball, and so scaling, right? How big do you want this overlay, right? I'm going to scale it. So the first thing I did was start from the beginning. This is what it looks like when I pressed preview. You want to click spot directing. It's usually right under the camera function. I'm going to click that button. Once you click that button, click change overlay. Now, if you have multiple overlays in the scene, you may have to click it a couple times and you will know it's hovering over it once you look at this bottom part here. This here will be your best friend. So I know it's on the ball. I don't have no other overlays in my scene. And it says overlay ball and a bunch of other numbers, right? I will talk about what those numbers mean in a minute. So that's how I know that it's on this. So make sure if you have multiple overlays, you click that button a couple times. Same thing when we're talking about characters, but right now we're talking about overlays. So next thing, once I click change overlay, obviously it's the only overlay in the scene. That's what we're using. So to make it bigger, you want to click switch to scale. This makes it bigger, makes it smaller. Depending on what you're using, iPad, mouse, whatever, if you hold it and you move it upwards usually or diagonal, it makes it bigger. You move it down. If you can see my mouse, move it up, it goes bigger, moves it down, it makes it smaller, right? So I want it pretty big so you guys can see what's going on here. So this is, and I know it looks like, oh my goodness, how do I save this? I'm going to show you. So all of this, if you pay attention to the numbers here, pay attention to here. If you pay attention to there, it's moving the numbers, right? So that's how it's able to keep it that size. Watch those numbers here. So make sure you're paying attention. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize it because we're going to copy this. So this is the scale. So now that I have it the size that I want, I need to move it. I'm going to click this button again, switch tool. I'm going to click it to move, okay? And what we're doing is we're placing it. This is where we want our overlay. Whether if I want it here, here, or over here. I'm placing this ball. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to start from here, right? That's where I'm going to keep my ball. I know you're like, why is the ball up there? I got a point to prove. Don't worry. So the ball is up here, right? This is where, so now I have the ball in the size that I want, and I have it where I want it. Now, depending on what your overlay is, whether it's a plane or if it's a shoe, whatever the case may be, you may, depending on where you want your overlay, you may have to readjust the scale, but do it based on your scene. But this, it's perfect the way it is for me. Now I can proceed. So now that I got the ball right where I want it, I'm going to go down, and this is our stage. It's showing us where it is, the scale that it is at, and the layer. I'm going to copy this. You see a bunch of numbers up here? That means it's copied. Perfect. What I'm going to do is right under here, I'm going to paste this stage right there. Now, it is very important that you watch the stage that you're setting, right? Because episode will follow what you put. So what am I saying here? What does this stage mean? That's why it's important to make sure you know where you're putting things, how you're putting things. Because this is telling what I want episode to do step by step. I want the overlay to be created. Then I want the opacity to be at 1. And then I want it to be placed here. Right? And as you become doing more advanced directing, I will show you what ampersand is and things like that. I have it in previous videos, but that's for the more advanced directing. This is just basic movement of your overlay, right? So this is what is set. In some cases, you may want the overlay to be invisible first, right? Or you may just want it to pop up, right? Or you may want it to fade in, right? You can work through that depending on your scene. But right now, this is fine for now. Okay. So I'm telling Episode I wanted to create it. I want it opacity 1 and I want it here. Right? This is where I want it. And obviously, to keep it there, you make sure you save it. Okay? So now that I have it here, I want my ball to be moved. Right? I want my ball to be moved. And I want it to go down. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this. Right? And depending on what you did with your scene, you may need to click this again, but it's right where I want it. Okay? I'm going to move this ball downwards. Try to keep it as straight as you can. It's fine if it's not. And this is how I want it. The ball is going down. Okay? So what am I telling Episode here? I'm telling Episode I want the ball from go to up here to down here. So now, obviously, because we moved it, we have a different stage number, right? The scale is the same. Where it shifts changes, okay? We're going to copy that stage, right? I know it's copied because it said it here. I'm going to paste it into my script now, right? That's where it's shifted to, okay? That's where it's moved. And depending on how you want your scene to look, how you want it set up, it can be just like that. Because now we're going to talk about functions. There's like 13 different functions. You can Google them if you want because I'm going to be very, very honest with you. I don't remember them all by hand. In my head. I'm so sorry. But if you want me to do a more in-depth video on functions and what each individual function look like, I can definitely do that for you. I just want this to be all about just moving the overlay, right? That's it. But I can definitely go into depth about the function. And naturally, default, the function is going to be linear, which means it's just up and down, no special effects, right? So this is where, and I want to make sure I preface this as well because I know layers was a confusing thing for a lot of people in that previous video. This is the layer. What does layer mean, right? The layer shows where it is in terms of placement. Now, depending on how many overlays you have in the scene, how many people you have in the scene, you may want the layer to be all the way back, which means you want it to be in the background. You want the people or other overlays in front of that overlay. It sounds confusing. I know, but that's basically what the layer mean. If you have a bunch of people in your scene, you may want the ball to be back or you may want it to be front. So you're going to have to move layers. I have a video about it. I can go in a more in-depth video if you would like, but that's just the basic. I wanted to address it because I know it was questions about that. But I can definitely talk about it in a different video, all about layers, how to move layers, all this other stuff. But we're just going to keep it to this. So now I got the ball where I want it. I got where it shifted to. Now we're going to use a function just to make it more, I guess you can say, realistic. Okay, so also what I want to happen here. You may see where I put N0, N8. This is time. So for this, I put N0, which means I want this shift here ASAP, right? Like I want it to just basically pop up. And then you see where I say it shifts N8. That means 8 seconds, right? What I'm saying here in this script is I want the ball to go up here to down here in 8 seconds using ease bounce out. You're going to see what that looks like in just a moment. I want to say there's like 13. I think it's 13, but linear, which is like plain old straight up and down, left to right, whatever. Then you got ease in, ease out, ease in and out, ease back in, ease back out, like there's a bunch of them. If you want me to go in depth to show you each and every one, I can. But when I think about things, especially like balls, I like to use ease, bounce out. It looks real realistic and I just like it. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. So again, I put this here just to let episode know I want this here in 0 seconds, which means just put it there. And then I want the ball to get from up here to down here in 8 seconds. And then I want them using. Make sure you put using ease, bounce out. I'm going to show you what that look like. See, I don't like it because it's pretty slow, but you can see. So the ease, bounce out. You see that? It gets that bouncing effect. I love that. But I think it's too slow. So I can put change in, let's do 3 seconds. Let's see how that looks, right? Because I think 8 seconds was pretty slow. I'm so sorry. But that's how you do that. See? 3 seconds, it's bouncing. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Now, again, there's other ease-in functions that can just, they do different things. And like I said, I can do a whole separate video on that if you guys want. But this is mostly how to create it and how to move it. So how do you move your overlays? Show helpers, spot direct, scale, and move it to where you want. Right? So hypothetically, let's say that I want the ball to fade in. How do I do that? Right? I'm going to copy this. I'm going to erase it. I'm going to put it here. You're probably going to be like, oh, what are you doing? I'm going to show you what I'm doing in a second. So this here, when I put it here, this means I want the ball to practically fade in. Right? So I want this to create it. What does opacity mean again? It means the visibility. So I want this to be created first, then I want it here, and then I want it to appear. So if I just left it like this, that means it's just going to basically show up like it's a magician, right? But if I put one in, if I put 1 in 5, what does that mean? It means that I want episode to create it. Then I want episode to put my ball here while it's not being seen. And then I want the ball to be completely visible in 5 seconds. That's what I'm telling episode. And then I want it to be moved. So I want you guys to see that you have a lot of leadway when it comes to opacity and moving and layering and things. And time. Learn how to use time. It makes everything, like if you want a character to come in or if you want overlays to fade in and out, especially if you want to make great effects, learn how to use the time and learn how to use opacity, especially when it comes to layering. Let's see how this looks. Okay, let's preview. You see that? It's fading in and then it's dropping. You obviously can take longer or shorter, but that's how you do it. Real easy. And all I did was I moved the overlay opacity under the shifting. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to tell episode, I wanted them to create my overlay first. Then I want them to move it. Mind you, it's invisible at this point, right? Because it's at 0, right? I haven't put in opacity yet. And after episode shifted, I want episode to make it the opacity 1 in 5 seconds so it can be visible. And then I want episode to drop it using ease, bounce out. So you have a lot of leadway and creativity. It takes trial and error, right? But that's how you do it. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Now, let's try something else, right? Let's say this is, I don't know, an airplane. And mind you, you don't have to do it with just the ball. You can use it to introduce a new chapter, make characters, make other overlays bounce. You can use, like, if you have an overlay with like chapter 1, you can make that bounce in. It's pretty cool. So let's say I want the ball going from one side to the other, because I know that's a question too. Like, some people have airplanes and they want it to kind of fly away in the sky. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so now I have my airplane, right? I just got this overlay from, episode. I didn't do anything special with it. So now I'm going to show you I'm going to show you how to bring a airplane in and airplane out type thing. So it's same thing. So let's use my overlay here. At overlay, right? Because we're talking about this overlay here. This is the name of the overlay, right? At overlay, create, right? And what else we're doing? At overlay, put the name of the overlay, right? Uh-oh. Don't want it there. At overlay, opacity 1, right? I want it opacity. That's what I want. So I want episode to create my airplane and I want them to make it visible. Okay, so our airplane is here, right? So we're going to click spot directing again. And again, if you have multiple overlays in here, then you would have to click change overlay and click it until you get the overlay that you want. But since I deleted the soccer ball, I just have this overlay in here. I don't have to do much. So I'm going to scroll up, and again, I have the overlay I want. I'm going to click move. And let me change overlay here. And I'm going to click move. This is a pretty big airplane. I didn't realize how big this was. So actually, I'm going to click scale and make this smaller. Remember, click scale, move it up, makes it bigger, move it down, make it smaller. And I'm going to click move. All right, it's just a bunch of trial and error and things. So make it as big as you want, make it as small as you want. Get a custom one, do what you want to do. So here's my airplane, right? But I want it to come from behind the scenes, right? That's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is hide it. Depending on where you're starting, I want it to hide from behind the scenes. Ooh, you can't see it, right? So this is my airplane. Then it's still here, by the way. I just got it outside of the camera. It's not in the camera's view, right? I'm going to copy this stage. So I'm going to put this here. Paste. Right? So this is the zone it's in. This is where it's shifted to, how big it is, and the layer. Right now, the layers are not important since I don't have nobody else here, no overlays. That's my only overlay, but just so, again, you know what the layer is. So now that's where I wanted to start off at, right? That's where I wanted to start off at. Now, I want to move it, right? So I want the airplane to go from that side. Try to keep it as straight as possible, but it's okay. And I want it to go to the other side of my screen so you can't see it again. So let's say you had a bunch of characters in here talking at the beach. Yay, yay, yay. Someone's in the pool or something. And you want the airplane to fly over it, right? So, oops, sorry. I'm going to copy this stage here. And I'm going to paste it here as well. So what is this saying? I want the airplane to start off here, and then I want it to move here, right? That's where I want it to go. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. So I want the airplane to start off here, and I want it to move here. Remember I told you about adding seconds? How fast do you want it there? If you don't put anything, it's just going to appear there. Because it's going to automatically go to 0, right? It's just going to appear there. It's just going to spot there. Like, boop, here we are. I'm going to put it in the duration, like a duration in there so that it shows you how long it takes to get there. So, how long it will take for it to get to the next shift spot. So I'm gonna put I don't know, 6 seconds, right? That's all. If you want, you could put 0. Since it's behind the scenes, I'm not gonna put 0. You can't see it anyway. But I probably would if you had like a bunch of folks here. It gets a little. You're gonna have to do a little bit more advanced directing. But since we're doing basic directing, nothing special, I have other videos about that. When you have people talking and how to move and how to get things moving at the same time, you use Afasand. But I talk about that in other videos you guys can check out, but this is just moving overlays. So next, I'm going to show you what it looks like. All right, so let's preview this. You see? That's the airplane moving, right? You can make it faster by putting 2-3 seconds. You can make it go slower by adding, you can put 15 seconds if you wanted to go real slow, right? But that's just the basics on moving overlays, right? I have other overlays videos if you are interested in those. I can do, if you have any more questions about overlays, leave it down in the comments below. I do read the comments. So also, like, to make it even more interesting to the readers, add sound effects, right? I know we haven't talked about adding sound. I can do videos on that soon. You can add sounds. Airplane, here it is. Airplane takeoff, airplane turbulence, airplane flyby. Add those, right? It gives more, it makes it better. It makes it a better read for the readers. It makes it feel like we're actually in the story, right? So that's 101 about overlays. Creating overlays, opacity. Remember, episode literally does what you put in. Manipulate the story how you want. I don't know if that was a good word for it, manipulate. But, you can. Manipulate the story how you want, right? So remember, in order to put in an overlay, at overlay, the name of your overlay, create. The opacity, at overlay, the name of your overlay, opacity 1. Remember, opacity goes from 0 to 1. So if you want if you want the opacity to be like barely faded, put 0.5. You can see it, but it's not completely, visible. If you want it to, fade in, put 1 in 8 seconds like we did with the soccer ball, right? Move your overlays by using time, moving layers. Episode is trial and error. Some things you're just going to have to figure out and play with the website a little bit. See what works for your story. Each story is different. In future episodes, I will talk about how to make things how to do things at the same time, like have your characters talking and moving overlays and having background characters. It's a little advanced and it can be overwhelming because you're doing a lot of things, but I will do my best to do it step by step. I hope this answers all your questions about overlays. If you have any more questions in regards to overlays, you need me to do another video on overlays. If you want me to do an Instagram video on overlays, I can do that for you. I'm here to help you make your episode story the best it can possibly be for you and your readers. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, lolorose.writes. There you can get personal help from me. Okay? I'm here to help you be the best writer you can be. And by watching this video, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate if you subscribe. I appreciate that. I hope this answers all your questions. Until next time, you guys have a great day, great night. Whenever you're watching this video, you are appreciated, you are loved. And again, if you have any questions about this video or you're still confused, shoot me a message, leave comments down, and I will do my best to do a follow-up video to any questions that you have. Bye.